Welcome, dear friend, to this moment of peace and tranquility. Before we begin our journey tonight, I invite you to take a moment to settle in, to find a comfortable position, and to let go of the day that has passed. Let your body sink into the surface beneath you, and allow your mind to gently unwind. And if you feel called to do so, please share in the comments what time it is where you are and what part of the world you are listening from. It is a beautiful way for us to connect, to feel the presence of this global community of souls seeking peace together. Tonight, we will embark on a journey of surrender, of letting go, of trusting the river of life to carry us exactly where we need to be. We will explore the profound wisdom of Buddhist teachings on non-resistance, on acceptance, and on the transformative power of allowing life to unfold in its own mysterious and beautiful way. So, take a deep breath and let us begin. Imagine yourself standing on the bank of a great river. The water flows with a steady, unhurried pace, its surface shimmering in the soft light of the moon. This is the river of life, the river of your life, and it is always flowing, always moving, always changing. The sound of the water is gentle and rhythmic, like a lullaby sung by the earth itself. You can hear it whispering secrets of ancient wisdom, stories of all the souls who have walked this path before you, and promises of the peace that awaits those who learn to trust its flow. For so long, you have been trying to control this river, to push it in a different direction, to build dams and barriers, to keep it from flowing where it naturally wants to go. You have been afraid of its power, of its unpredictability, of its depth. You have stood on the bank, watching it flow past you, sometimes dipping your toes in the water, but never fully surrendering to its embrace. You have been like a person trying to push the ocean with their bare hands, exhausting yourself in a futile attempt to make the vast forces of nature bend to your will. But tonight, you are invited to let go of the struggle. You are invited to step into the water, to feel its cool embrace, and to allow it to carry you on a journey of discovery, of healing, of profound peace. As you take that first step into the river, you feel the water swirling around your ankles, welcoming you home. It is neither cold nor warm, but perfectly suited to your needs in this moment. The riverbed beneath your feet is smooth and soft, made of countless small stones that have been polished by centuries of flowing water. As you wade deeper into the river, you begin to understand the first great truth. The illusion of control creates suffering. You have spent so much of your life trying to control everything around you: your future, your relationships, your success, your reputation, even the way others see you and think about you. You have believed that by holding tight to every detail, by planning every outcome, by anticipating every possibility, you could make life predictable and safe. You have lived with clenched fists and a tight chest, always ready to fight against anything that doesn't match your expectations. But Buddhism gently reminds us that this need for control is an illusion, a trap that keeps us in constant struggle. The more we try to control, the more anxious and restless we become, because life simply doesn't obey our commands. Life has its own intelligence, its own rhythm, its own mysterious way of unfolding. It is like trying to control the wind or command the rain to fall only when it's convenient for us. The universe operates according to laws far greater and more complex than our limited human understanding can grasp. Everything is in motion, Seasons change without asking our permission. People grow and evolve in ways we cannot predict or control. Plans fall through despite our best efforts. Circumstances shift and transform beyond our understanding. The stock market rises and falls. Relationships deepen or fade. Health comes and goes. Children grow up and leave home. Parents age and pass away. The very cells in your body are constantly dying and being reborn. Nothing remains static. Nothing stays the same. And yet we spend so much energy trying to freeze life in place, trying to make the temporary permanent. When we cling too tightly to how we think things should be, we suffer. We suffer because we are fighting against the natural flow of impermanence, the very truth that everything in existence is temporary. You may try to hold on to a relationship that has already ended in spirit, clinging to the memory of how it used to be, while refusing to see how it has changed. You may try to hold on to a job that drains your soul, staying out of fear rather than trust. You may try to hold on to an image of who you once were, refusing to allow yourself to grow and evolve into who you are becoming. But no matter how hard you try to control, life will move on. The river will continue to flow, and the tighter you hold, the more pain you create for yourself and for those around you. It is like trying to hold water in your cupped hands. The harder you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. The more desperately you grasp, the less you are able to hold. Buddha taught that attachment, this constant grasping for control, is the root cause of suffering. When you attach yourself to specific outcomes, you begin to expect that things will always go your way, that people will always treat you the same, that success will always look like you imagined it would. You create a rigid script for how your life should unfold, and then you suffer when reality refuses to follow that script. But reality doesn't owe you anything. Reality is not obligated to match your expectations or fulfill your demands. When those expectations break, when life deviates from your carefully crafted plan, you feel pain, frustration, confusion, and anger. You start to believe that life is unfair, that you are being punished, that the universe is working against you. But in truth, life is only unfolding as it must. The universe is not personal. It is not targeting you specifically for hardship or blessing. It is simply following its own vast and mysterious intelligence, an intelligence that sees patterns and connections far beyond what your individual perspective can comprehend. Imagine trying to stop a river with your bare hands. You stand in the middle of the current, pushing against the water with all your strength, believing that your effort will change its direction. All you get in return is exhaustion, frustration, and disappointment. Your arms grow tired, your legs grow weak, and still the river continues to flow around you, over you, through you. You are fighting a force that is infinitely more powerful than you are, and you cannot win. But the moment you stop forcing the river, when you step back, breathe deeply, and let the water flow naturally, something beautiful happens. You begin to float. You realize that the river never needed your control. It never asked for your interference. It only needed your trust. It knows where it is going. It has been flowing for millions of years, carving canyons, nourishing forests, sustaining life. It has its own wisdom, its own purpose, its own perfect timing. As you allow yourself to float on your back in the gentle current, you feel a profound sense of relief wash over you. The tension in your shoulders begins to melt away. The knot in your stomach starts to loosen. The racing thoughts in your mind begin to slow down and quiet. You are no longer fighting. You are no longer struggling. You are simply being carried, supported, held by something far greater than yourself. Letting go of control doesn't mean you stop caring or stop making effort. It doesn't mean you become passive or give up on your dreams and goals. It means you act with awareness, but without attachment to specific results. You still plant seeds in the garden of your life, but you don't demand to know exactly when and how they will bloom. You trust in the seasons, in the rain, in the soil, in the mysterious process of growth that happens in its own time. You still love deeply and fully, but you don't cage others with your expectations. You don't try to control how they feel about you, how they express their love, or how long they choose to stay in your life. You love them as they are, not as you think they should be. You give your love freely, without conditions, without demands, without the need for it to be returned in exactly the way you want it to be. You still dream and set goals and work toward what you desire, but you don't despair when life takes a different turn. You understand that sometimes the detour is more beautiful than the planned route. Sometimes the closed door leads to an open window. Sometimes the failure becomes the foundation for a success you never could have imagined. You hold your plans lightly, like a bird that you allow to fly free, trusting that if it is meant to return to you, it will. This is the middle path that the Buddha taught. It is the way of walking between effort and surrender, between caring and letting go, between engagement and detachment. It is not the path of the extremes, not the way of complete control or complete passivity. It is the balanced way, the wise way, the way that leads to peace. When you understand that control is an illusion, a deep peace enters your life. You no longer chase after perfection because you understand that perfection is not the goal. Growth is the goal. Learning is the goal. Love is the goal. You no longer fear what is uncertain because you understand that uncertainty is the natural state of life. Certainty is the illusion. Change is the only constant. You begin to live with flow instead of force. You discover that true safety doesn't come from controlling life, but from trusting it. You realize that the universe is not a hostile place that needs to be conquered, but a loving parent that wants to guide you toward your highest good. You understand that you are not alone in this vast cosmos, struggling against indifferent forces, but that you are held and supported by an intelligence that is infinitely wise and infinitely loving. The moment you release your grip on how you think things should be, you give life permission to guide you toward what is truly meant to be, and life always leads you exactly where you need to go. Sometimes the path is smooth and easy, sometimes it is rocky and challenging, but every step, every experience, every joy, and every sorrow is perfectly designed to help you grow, to help you learn, to help you become more fully yourself. As you float peacefully in the river, you notice that the landscape around you is beginning to change. The banks are becoming lined with tall, ancient trees, their branches reaching up toward the star-filled sky, like the arms of wise elders offering their blessings. The air is filled with the scent of pine and rich earth, and you can hear the gentle hooting of an owl in the distance. You are approaching a great forest, a place of deep wisdom and profound mystery. The water carries you gently toward this new landscape, and you feel a sense of anticipation, of wonder, of readiness, for whatever teachings await you in the forest of the soul. You have learned the first great lesson of the river, that control is an illusion and that peace comes from surrender. Now you are ready to go deeper, to explore the hidden chambers of your own consciousness, to discover truths that will transform not just how you think, but who you know yourself to be. The river continues to flow, and you continue to trust. The journey has only just begun, and already you can feel something shifting within you, something opening, something awakening. You are no longer the same person who stood on the bank, afraid to enter the water. You are becoming someone new, someone who knows how to flow with life rather than fight against it. And this is only the beginning of the transformation that awaits you. As the ancient forest draws closer, you close your eyes and breathe deeply, preparing yourself for the next stage of this sacred journey. The river knows where it is taking you. The river knows what you need to learn, and you trust the river completely, knowing that every bend, every current, every moment of this journey is exactly as it should be. You remember now all the times in your life when you tried so desperately to control outcomes, to force situations to bend to your will. You remember the sleepless nights spent worrying about things that might happen, the endless mental rehearsals of conversations that never occurred, the way you imagined them, the careful strategies you devised to manipulate circumstances in your favor. You remember the exhaustion that came from constantly trying to be 3 steps ahead of life, always planning, always scheming, always trying to outsmart the universe. There was the time you tried to control how someone felt about you, analyzing every word they spoke, every gesture they made, trying to decode their feelings, and then adjusting your own behavior to get the response you wanted. You became a detective of human emotion, searching for clues and evidence, building cases for why they should love you, why they should stay, why they should choose you. But love cannot be controlled. Love is like the river itself. It flows where it will, and no amount of manipulation or strategy can force it to flow where it does not naturally want to go. There was the time you tried to control your career, your success, your reputation. You worked tirelessly, sacrificing sleep and health and relationships, believing that if you just tried hard enough, if you just controlled every variable, you could guarantee the outcome you desired. You made lists and plans and backup plans. You networked and strategized and positioned yourself perfectly. And yet, despite all your efforts, life had its own ideas. Opportunities came from unexpected directions. Doors closed that you thought would remain open forever. Success arrived in forms you never anticipated, or it eluded you despite your best efforts. You remember trying to control your children, your parents, your friends. You had ideas about who they should be, how they should behave, what choices they should make. You gave advice that wasn't asked for. You worried about their decisions and tried to protect them from their own mistakes. You wanted to save them from pain, to guide them away from the hard lessons that you yourself had to learn. But each soul has its own journey, its own lessons to learn, its own river to navigate. Your love for them is real and beautiful, but your need to control their path only creates suffering for everyone involved. There were times you tried to control your own emotions, to force yourself to feel differently than you actually felt. You told yourself you shouldn't be sad, shouldn't be angry, shouldn't be afraid. You tried to think your way out of grief, to logic your way out of heartbreak, to willpower your way out of depression. You believed that if you just had enough discipline, enough positive thinking, enough spiritual practice, you could control your inner weather the same way you tried to control your outer circumstances. But emotions, like the river, have their own intelligence, their own timing, their own purpose. You tried to control time itself, rushing through moments you didn't enjoy and trying to slow down or freeze the moments you wanted to last forever. You lived in the future, always planning for someday when things would be better, when you would be happier, when life would finally be the way you wanted it to be. Or you lived in the past, trying to relive the good times, trying to undo the mistakes, trying to rewrite the story of your life. But time, like the river, flows in only one direction, and it flows at its own pace, regardless of your preferences. The Buddha taught that this constant grasping, this endless attempt to control, is like trying to hold onto a handful of sand. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. The more desperately you grasp, the less you are able to hold. And so you spend your life with closed fists, missing the beauty that is all around you, missing the gifts that are being offered to you in each moment, because you are so focused on trying to capture and control what cannot be captured or controlled. But tonight, as you float in the gentle current of the river, you are learning a different way. You are learning to live with open hands, with an open heart, with an open mind. You are learning that true power comes not from controlling life, but from flowing with it. You are discovering that real safety is found not in building walls and barriers, but in developing the flexibility to bend without breaking, the resilience to bounce back from setbacks, the wisdom to see opportunity in every challenge. The river teaches you that there is a vast intelligence at work in the universe, an intelligence that is far greater than your individual mind could ever comprehend. This intelligence orchestrates the movement of planets, the changing of seasons, the beating of your heart, the healing of your wounds. It knows how to grow a tree from a tiny seed, how to transform a caterpillar into a butterfly, how to create a human being from the union of two cells. This same intelligence is guiding your life even when you cannot see the pattern, even when the path seems unclear. When you try to control everything, you are essentially saying to this vast intelligence, I don't trust you. I think I know better than you do. I think my limited perspective is superior to your infinite wisdom. But when you let go of control, when you surrender to the flow of life, you are saying, I trust you. I trust that you see the bigger picture. I trust that you are guiding me toward my highest good, even when I cannot understand how or why. This doesn't mean you become passive or stop making choices. The river flows, but it also responds to the landscape it encounters. When it meets a rock, it flows around it. When it meets a cliff, it becomes a waterfall. When it meets the ocean, it merges and becomes something even greater. In the same way, you can be responsive to life while still allowing life to guide you. You can make choices and take action while holding those choices lightly, without attachment to specific outcomes. You begin to understand that there is a difference between controlling and influencing. You cannot control whether someone loves you, but you can influence it by being loving yourself. You cannot control whether you get the job, but you can influence it by preparing well and showing up authentically. You cannot control whether you get sick, but you can influence your health by taking care of your body and managing your stress. You cannot control whether you experience loss and grief, but you can influence how you move through those experiences by practicing acceptance and self-compassion. The river shows you that influence flows naturally from alignment, from being in harmony with the deeper currents of life. When you stop fighting against what is and start working with what is, you become incredibly powerful. Not the kind of power that comes from domination or manipulation, but the kind of power that comes from being in the right place at the right time, saying the right words, taking the right action because you are flowing with life rather than against it. As you continue to float peacefully in the river, you notice how effortless it feels. You are not swimming against the current. You are not exhausting yourself, trying to go faster than the river wants to carry you. You are simply allowing yourself to be supported, to be held, to be guided. And in this allowing, you discover a kind of rest that you have never experienced before. It is not just physical rest, but emotional rest, mental rest, spiritual rest. It is the deep peace that comes from finally putting down the burden of trying to control everything. You realize that you have been carrying this burden for so long that you forgot it was a burden. You thought it was just the way life was supposed to be lived, with constant vigilance, constant effort, constant worry about what might go wrong. You thought that if you ever stopped trying to control everything, everything would fall apart. But now you see that the opposite is true. When you stop trying to control everything, everything begins to flow more smoothly. When you stop forcing, life starts working with you instead of against you. The ancient trees along the riverbank seem to nod in agreement as you float past them. They have stood here for hundreds of years, weathering storms and droughts, seasons of plenty and seasons of scarcity. They did not try to control the weather. They did not resist the changing seasons. They simply grew, adapting to whatever conditions they encountered, bending with the wind instead of fighting against it, sending their roots deep into the earth for stability, while allowing their branches to sway freely in the sky. You understand now that this is the secret of resilience, the secret of peace, the secret of a life well lived. It is not about avoiding challenges or controlling circumstances. It is about developing the inner flexibility to meet whatever comes with grace, with wisdom, with an open heart. It is about learning to dance with life instead of wrestling with it, to surf the waves instead of trying to stop them, to flow with the river instead of fighting against its current. As the forest draws nearer, you feel a deep sense of gratitude for this lesson, this gift of understanding that the river has given you. You know that you will never again try to control life in the same desperate way you once did. You know that you have learned something precious, something that will change how you move through the world from this moment forward. You have learned to trust the river, and in learning to trust the river, you have learned to trust life itself. The water continues to carry you gently toward the ancient forest, toward the next chapter of this sacred journey. You are ready now for whatever teachings await you among the trees. You are ready to go deeper, to learn more, to continue this process of awakening that began the moment you stepped into the river and chose to let go of the illusion of control. The river knows where it is taking you, and you trust the river completely. The moonlight dances on the water's surface as you approach the edge of the ancient forest. You can see the tall pines and oaks standing like silent sentinels, their branches creating intricate patterns against the star-filled sky. There is something magical about this place, something that speaks to the deepest part of your soul. You sense that you are about to enter sacred ground, a place where the veils between the worlds are thin, where wisdom flows as freely as the river itself. As you float closer to the forest, you reflect on how much has already changed within you during this short journey. When you first stood on the riverbank, you were carrying the weight of 1,000 worries, 1,000 plans, 1,000 attempts to control the uncontrollable. Your shoulders were tight with tension. Your mind was racing with endless thoughts. Your heart was closed and guarded against the uncertainties of life. But now, as the gentle current carries you toward new adventures, you feel lighter than you have in years. The burden of control has been lifted from your shoulders. The need to have all the answers has dissolved into a peaceful acceptance of mystery. The fear of the unknown has transformed into curiosity and wonder. You are no longer the same person who was afraid to step into the river. You have been changed by the water, purified by the flow, renewed by the act of surrender. You understand now that this is how transformation happens, not through force or effort or trying to change yourself, but through allowing yourself to be changed by life itself. The river has been your teacher, and the lesson has been simple yet profound. Let go, trust, flow. These 3 words contain within them the secret to a peaceful life, the key to happiness, the path to freedom from suffering. Let go of the need to control every outcome, every person, every situation. Let go of the belief that you must have all the answers, that you must be perfect, that you must never make mistakes. Let go of the stories you tell yourself about how life should be, and open yourself to the beauty of how life actually is. Trust that there is a wisdom greater than your own at work in the universe. Trust that this wisdom knows what it is doing, even when you cannot see the plan. Trust that you are being guided, even when the path seems unclear. Trust that everything that happens to you is somehow serving your growth, your learning, your evolution into who you are meant to become. Flow with the natural rhythms of life instead of fighting against them. Flow with the seasons of your own soul, the times of growth and the times of rest, the times of joy and the times of sorrow, the times of clarity and the times of confusion. Flow with the changes that come, knowing that change is the very essence of life, the very mechanism through which life renews and refreshes itself. As these truths settle into your heart like seeds planted in fertile soil, you feel a deep sense of peace wash over you. This is not the temporary peace that comes from getting what you want or avoiding what you fear. This is the lasting peace that comes from aligning yourself with the way things actually are, from surrendering to the flow of existence itself. The forest is very close now, and you can hear new sounds, the gentle rustling of leaves in the night breeze, the distant call of a night bird, the soft whisper of wind through the trees. These sounds do not disturb your peace. They enhance it. They are the music of the natural world, the symphony of life itself, and you are no longer separate from this music. You are part of it, a note in the great song of existence. You notice that your breathing has become deeper and more relaxed. Your heartbeat has slowed to match the gentle rhythm of the river. Your mind, which was once so busy with thoughts and worries and plans, has become still and quiet, like a lake on a windless day. This is the stillness that the Buddha spoke of, the peace that passes understanding, the silence in which all wisdom is born. In this stillness, you begin to hear the voice of your own inner wisdom, the part of you that has always known the truth, but has been drowned out by the noise of your thinking mind. This inner voice is gentle and kind, patient and loving. It does not criticize or judge. It simply offers guidance, like a loving parent or a wise friend. And what this inner voice tells you is this: you are exactly where you need to be. This moment, this experience, this journey down the river of life, it is all perfect. Not perfect in the sense that it matches your preferences or fulfills your desires, but perfect in the sense that it is exactly what you need for your growth, your healing, your awakening. Every challenge you have faced, every loss you have endured, every mistake you have made, all of it has been preparing you for this moment of understanding. All of it has been teaching you to let go, to trust, to flow. All of it has been guiding you toward this river, toward this surrender, toward this peace. You feel a wave of gratitude wash over you. Gratitude for the river, for the journey, for the lessons learned, and the lessons yet to come. You are grateful for the struggles that taught you strength, for the losses that taught you love, for the failures that taught you humility, for the fears that taught you courage. You are grateful for this moment of perfect peace, floating on the river of life, held and supported by forces greater than yourself. As you approach the entrance to the forest, you take one last look back at the open landscape you are leaving behind. You see the path you have traveled, the distance you have come, the person you were when this journey began. You send that former self a blessing, a thank you for all the trying and striving and struggling that eventually led to this moment of surrender. And then you turn your face toward the forest, toward the unknown, toward the next chapter of this sacred journey. You are no longer afraid of what lies ahead because you have learned the secret. The river knows where it is going, and the river can be trusted completely. Whatever awaits you in the forest of the soul, you are ready for it. You are open to it. You welcome it with an open heart. The ancient trees reach out their branches to welcome you as the river carries you into their embrace. You are about to discover new truths, new wisdom, new depths of peace and understanding. The journey continues, and you flow with it, willingly, joyfully, trustingly, knowing that every moment of this sacred voyage is a gift, a blessing, a step closer to the truth of who you really are. As the river carries you gently into the embrace of the ancient forest, you feel as though you are entering a living cathedral. The tall trees rise up around you like pillars supporting the star-studded ceiling of the night sky. Their branches interweave overhead, creating a canopy so thick that only scattered beams of moonlight filter through to dance on the water's surface. The air is rich with the scent of pine needles and damp earth, of moss and wildflowers, of the deep green essence of life itself. The river continues to carry you deeper into this sacred space, and you notice that the water here moves more slowly, more thoughtfully, as if it too is aware of the reverence that this place commands. The sound of the current is softer now, a gentle whisper that seems to harmonize with the rustling of leaves and the distant hooting of an owl. Everything here speaks of ancient wisdom, of secrets held in the rings of tree trunks, of stories whispered from root to root through the underground network that connects all living things. As you float peacefully through this forest sanctuary, You become aware of something that has been happening since you entered this sacred space. Your mind, which had grown so beautifully quiet during your journey down the river, is beginning to stir again. Thoughts are starting to arise, like small animals emerging from their hiding places in the underbrush. At first, they are gentle thoughts, observations about the beauty around you, memories of other forests you have walked through, wonder about what creatures might be watching you from the shadows. But gradually, as often happens when the mind begins to awaken from stillness, the thoughts become more numerous, more insistent. They begin to chatter among themselves like a family of monkeys in the treetops, each one calling for your attention, each one claiming to be the most important thing you should be thinking about right now. This is what the Buddha called the monkey mind, the restless, jumping, never still quality of human consciousness that swings from thought to thought like a monkey swinging from branch to branch. You notice thoughts about your day, about things you forgot to do, about conversations you wish you had handled differently. You notice worries about tomorrow, about next week, about next year. You notice judgments about yourself and others, memories of past hurts, fantasies about future successes. You notice the mind's tendency to label everything it encounters: beautiful tree, peaceful water, mysterious forest, as if it cannot simply experience something without immediately categorizing it, analyzing it, comparing it to other experiences. For a moment, you feel frustrated. You had achieved such beautiful peace, such perfect stillness, and now your mind is chattering again like an excited child. You want to push the thoughts away, to return to that blissful silence you experienced on the open river. You try to force your mind to be quiet, to command the thoughts to stop, to will yourself back into that state of perfect peace. But as you struggle with your thoughts, trying to control them, trying to make them behave the way you want them to behave, you realize that you are falling back into the old pattern of control that you just learned to release. You are trying to control your mind the same way you used to try to control your life, with force, with resistance, with the belief that you should be able to make your inner world conform to your preferences. And then, floating there in the gentle current surrounded by the wisdom of the ancient trees, you begin to understand the second great truth that the river has brought you here to learn. You are not your thoughts. The thoughts that arise in your mind are not you, any more than the clouds that pass through the sky are the sky itself. You are the awareness in which thoughts appear and disappear. You are the space in which the monkey mind plays. You are the stillness that remains constant even when the surface of your mind is busy with activity. This understanding dawns on you slowly, like sunrise creeping through the forest canopy. You begin to see that you have been identifying with your thoughts, believing that you are your thoughts, suffering when your thoughts are painful, and celebrating when your thoughts are pleasant. But thoughts are simply phenomena that arise and pass away in the space of your consciousness. They are like weather patterns in the sky of your awareness, sometimes stormy, sometimes calm, always changing, never permanent. The Buddha taught that this identification with thoughts is one of the primary sources of human suffering. When you believe that you are your thoughts, you become a victim of whatever happens to be passing through your mind at any given moment. If angry thoughts arise, you believe you are an angry person. If sad thoughts arise, you believe you are a sad person. If fearful thoughts arise, you believe you are in danger. You lose touch with the peaceful awareness that is your true nature. the unchanging presence that witnesses all thoughts but is not disturbed by any of them. As you float deeper into the forest, you begin to practice this new understanding. Instead of trying to stop your thoughts or control them, you simply observe them with gentle curiosity. You watch them arise like bubbles surfacing in a stream. You notice their content without getting caught up in their stories. You see them pass away like clouds dissolving in the sky, and you begin to recognize the vast, peaceful space in which all of this mental activity is taking place. You notice that some thoughts try very hard to capture your attention, to convince you that they are urgently important, that you must focus on them immediately. These are often the thoughts about problems you need to solve, mistakes you might be making, dangers you should be worried about. They present themselves as helpful, as necessary for your survival and success. But as you observe them with detached awareness, you begin to see that most of these thoughts are not actually helpful at all. They are simply the mind's habitual patterns of worry and control, playing out their familiar dramas. Other thoughts are more subtle, more seductive. These are the thoughts that tell stories about who you are, what your life means, how others see you, what you should be doing with your time. These thoughts create what Buddhists call the ego, the sense of being a separate self with a particular identity, history, and destiny. These thoughts are not necessarily painful, but they are limiting. They keep you trapped in a small story about yourself, when the truth is that you are so much more vast and mysterious than any story could contain. As you practice observing your thoughts without identifying with them, you begin to notice something remarkable. The thoughts continue to arise and pass away, but they no longer have the power to disturb your peace. You can watch a worried thought arise without becoming worried. You can observe an angry thought without becoming angry. You can notice a sad thought without becoming sad. You are like the sky, watching clouds pass by, present with them, aware of them, but not changed by them. This is the practice of mindfulness that the Buddha taught, the ability to observe the contents of your mind with clear, non-judgmental awareness. It is not about having no thoughts, which is impossible for a human being. It is about changing your relationship with your thoughts, recognizing that you are not the thinker, but the awareness in which thinking happens. The forest around you seems to embody this teaching perfectly. The trees do not resist the wind that moves through their branches. They do not try to control which birds land on their limbs or which insects crawl on their bark. They simply stand in their deep-rootedness, allowing all of life to flow through and around them while remaining centered in their own essential nature. In the same way, you can remain centered in your own essential nature, which is pure awareness, pure consciousness, pure being, while allowing all thoughts and emotions to flow through you without resistance. As you continue to float through the forest, you notice that the trees themselves seem to be teaching you about the nature of mind. Each tree is unique. Some are tall and straight, others are gnarled and twisted. Some have smooth bark, others are rough and textured, yet they all share the same essential treeness. In the same way, each thought that arises in your mind is unique, but they all share the same essential nature. They are all temporary phenomena, arising and passing away in the space of awareness. You begin to see that trying to control your thoughts is like trying to control which leaves fall from the trees in autumn. It is a natural process that happens according to its own intelligence, its own timing, its own purpose. The more you try to interfere with this natural process, the more you create suffering for yourself. But when you simply allow thoughts to arise and pass away naturally, without resistance and without attachment, you discover a profound peace that is always available beneath the surface activity of the mind. The Buddha compared the mind to a muddy pond. When you stir up the water by trying to control your thoughts, the mud gets stirred up and the water becomes cloudy. But when you stop stirring, when you simply allow the water to be still, the mud naturally settles to the bottom and the water becomes clear. In the same way, when you stop trying to control your thoughts and simply rest in awareness, the mind naturally becomes clear and peaceful. You remember all the times in your life when you believed your thoughts completely, when you were convinced that the stories your mind was telling you were absolutely true and urgently important. You remember lying awake at night, caught up in mental loops of worry and analysis, believing that if you could just think about your problems hard enough, long enough, you could solve them all. You remember the exhaustion that came from this constant mental activity, the way your thoughts could spiral into anxiety, depression, anger, or despair. But now, floating peacefully in the forest stream, you see that all of those thoughts were just thoughts. They were not reality itself, but mental interpretations of reality. They were not facts, but stories. They were not permanent truths, but temporary phenomena arising and passing away in the space of your consciousness. And you were never actually in danger from your thoughts, any more than you are in danger from the clouds in the sky or the leaves rustling in the trees. This understanding brings with it a tremendous sense of freedom. You realize that you do not have to believe every thought that arises in your mind. You do not have to follow every mental story to its conclusion. You do not have to be a victim of your own thinking patterns. You can choose which thoughts to engage with and which thoughts to simply let pass by like clouds in the sky. You begin to understand that there are different types of thoughts, just as there are different types of weather. Some thoughts are like gentle spring rain, nourishing, refreshing, helpful for growth. These are thoughts of love, gratitude, wisdom, creativity, compassion. These thoughts arise from your deeper nature, from the part of you that is connected to the source of all life. When these thoughts arise, you can welcome them, appreciate them, allow them to water the garden of your soul. Other thoughts are like storms, dramatic, intense, potentially destructive if you get caught up in them. These are thoughts of fear, anger, judgment, worry, despair. These thoughts often arise from old conditioning, from past traumas, from the ego's attempts to protect itself. When these thoughts arise, you do not need to resist them or fight against them, but you also do not need to take shelter in them or believe their stories. You can simply observe them with compassion, knowing that they too will pass. And some thoughts are like fog, not particularly harmful, but not particularly helpful either. They simply obscure your vision, making it harder to see clearly. These are the random, repetitive, habitual thoughts that fill up so much mental space. The mental chatter about nothing in particular, the endless commentary on everything you experience, the constant stream of mental noise that serves no real purpose. When these thoughts arise, you can simply let them drift by without paying them much attention, like fog that will naturally lift when the sun rises. As you practice this new way of relating to your thoughts, you notice that the forest around you seems to be responding to your growing inner stillness. The trees appear more majestic, more alive, more present. The water feels softer, more supportive, more nurturing. The night sounds become a symphony of peace rather than a distraction. It is as if the entire forest is celebrating your awakening to this deeper truth about the nature of mind. You realize that this is what meditation is really about, not stopping thoughts, but changing your relationship with thoughts. Not achieving some special state of consciousness, but recognizing the consciousness that is already here, already perfect, already peaceful. Not becoming someone different, but discovering who you have always been beneath all the mental noise and activity. The river continues to carry you gently through the forest, and you notice that up ahead, the trees are beginning to thin out. You can see patches of open sky between the branches, and the water seems to be moving slightly faster, as if it is eager to show you what lies beyond this forest of the mind. You sense that you are approaching another landscape, another teaching, another opportunity to deepen your understanding of the nature of life and consciousness. But for now, you are content to float peacefully through the remaining forest, practicing this new skill of observing your thoughts without being controlled by them. You watch as thoughts arise and pass away, like waves on the ocean of your awareness. And you rest in the deep peace of knowing that you are not the waves, but the ocean itself, vast, deep, unchanging, eternally calm beneath the surface activity. As the forest begins to open up around you, you feel a profound gratitude for this teaching, this gift of understanding that the trees and the river have given you. You know that you will never again be quite so caught up in your thoughts, quite so identified with the stories your mind tells you. You have learned to find the eye of the storm, the center of peace that exists within you always, regardless of what weather patterns might be moving through the sky of your consciousness. The moonlight grows brighter as the canopy thins, and you can see that you are approaching the edge of the forest. Beyond the trees, you glimpse what appears to be a vast, open meadow, bathed in silver light. Your heart fills with anticipation and wonder as you prepare to leave the forest of thoughts behind and enter this new landscape of possibility. The river knows where it is taking you, and you trust the river completely, knowing that each stage of this journey is perfectly designed to teach you exactly what you need to learn. The last of the great trees pass by on either side of you, their ancient branches seeming to offer a blessing as you float past. You have learned their lesson well, that you are not your thoughts, that peace is always available in the space of pure awareness, that the mind can be a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. Now you are ready for whatever wisdom awaits you in the moonlit meadow ahead, ready to continue this sacred journey of awakening, ready to discover even deeper truths about the nature of existence and your place within it. As you float in the gentle current, preparing to leave the forest behind, you take a moment to reflect more deeply on this profound teaching about the nature of thoughts and consciousness. You realize that this understanding, that you are not your thoughts, is perhaps one of the most liberating discoveries a human being can make. It changes everything about how you experience life, how you relate to challenges, how you find peace in the midst of mental storms. You remember how, before this journey, you lived so much of your life at the mercy of your thinking mind. When worried thoughts arose, you became worried. When angry thoughts appeared, you became angry. When sad thoughts surfaced, you became sad. You were like a leaf blown about by every mental wind, with no anchor, no center, no refuge from the constant changing weather of your mind. But now you understand that there has always been a refuge available to you, the refuge of pure awareness itself. This awareness is like the sky that contains all weather, but is never damaged by any weather. Storms may rage across it, clouds may gather and disperse, lightning may flash and thunder may roar, but the sky itself remains vast, open, unchanging, and serene. In the same way, your essential nature, your true self, remains peaceful and whole, regardless of what thoughts and emotions may be passing through your consciousness. The Buddha taught that this awareness, this consciousness that witnesses all thoughts but is not identified with any thoughts, is your Buddha nature, the awakened essence that exists within every human being. It is not something you need to create or achieve or earn. It is something you need to recognize, to remember, to return to. It has been there all along, waiting patiently beneath the surface noise of your thinking mind, like a clear mountain lake waiting beneath the ripples on its surface. You begin to see how this understanding can transform every aspect of your daily life. When you are caught in traffic and impatient thoughts arise, you can observe those thoughts without becoming impatient. When someone criticizes you and defensive thoughts appear, you can watch those thoughts without becoming defensive. When you face a challenge and fearful thoughts surface, you can witness those thoughts without becoming afraid. You are no longer a prisoner of your own mind. This doesn't mean that you become emotionless or detached from life. Quite the opposite. When you are no longer lost in the drama of your thoughts, you become more present, more alive, more capable of responding to life with wisdom and compassion, rather than reacting from old patterns of conditioning. You become like the trees in this forest, deeply rooted in your essential nature, flexible enough to bend with the winds of change, strong enough to weather any storm. You think about all the energy you have wasted over the years, fighting with your own thoughts, trying to think your way out of problems that existed only in your mind, getting caught up in mental arguments with people who weren't even present, rehearsing conversations that never happened the way you imagined them. You see now that all of that mental activity was like a hamster running on a wheel, lots of motion, but no actual progress toward peace or happiness. The river carries you past a particularly ancient oak tree, its massive trunk scarred by centuries of storms but still standing strong and proud. You realize that this tree is a perfect metaphor for what you are learning. The tree has weathered countless storms, lightning strikes, fierce winds, droughts, floods, ice storms. Each storm has left its mark, but none has destroyed the tree's essential nature. It continues to grow, to reach toward the light, to provide shelter and oxygen and beauty to the world around it. In the same way, you have weathered countless mental and emotional storms throughout your life. Each difficult experience has left its mark on you, but none has destroyed your essential nature, your capacity for love, for joy, for peace, for wisdom. That essential nature is still there, still whole, still perfect, waiting to be recognized and embraced. You begin to understand that the practice of mindfulness, of observing your thoughts without identifying with them, is like tending a garden. At first, the garden of your mind may be overgrown with weeds of worry, anger, fear, and judgment. These weeds have been growing wild for years, perhaps decades, fed by habit and unconsciousness. But as you begin to observe them with awareness, As you stop feeding them with your attention and belief, they gradually lose their power and begin to wither. At the same time, the flowers of wisdom, compassion, gratitude, and peace, which have always been there but may have been choked out by the weeds, begin to flourish. These positive qualities are not something you need to create or manufacture. They are the natural expression of your true nature when it is not obscured by mental confusion and emotional reactivity. The practice is simple but not always easy. It requires patience, gentleness, and persistence. Just as a gardener doesn't get frustrated when weeds continue to appear, but simply continues to tend the garden with love and care, you learn to observe your thoughts with compassion rather than judgment. When you notice that you have been caught up in a mental story, you don't criticize yourself. You simply return to awareness, return to presence, return to the peaceful space that is always available within you. You remember the words of a great meditation teacher who said, "You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are not your body. You are not your roles. You are not your history. You are the awareness in which all of these phenomena appear and disappear." This awareness is sometimes called the witness consciousness, the observer self, the true self, or simply presence. Whatever name you give it, it is the most intimate and essential aspect of who you are. As you float deeper into your understanding of this truth, you notice that the quality of your thoughts is beginning to change. When you stop fighting with your thoughts, when you stop trying to control them or judge them, they naturally become less chaotic, less urgent, less demanding of your attention. It's as if the thoughts themselves relax when they realize you are no longer taking them so seriously. You also notice that gaps of silence begin to appear between thoughts, moments of pure awareness without any mental content at all. These gaps may last only a second or two at first, but they are precious beyond measure. In these moments of thoughtless awareness, you taste the peace that is your birthright, the joy that needs no reason, the love that has no object. These moments show you what is possible when you are not lost in the maze of your thinking mind. The Buddha taught that these gaps between thoughts are like doorways to enlightenment. Each moment of pure awareness, however brief, is a moment of awakening. And the more you practice resting in awareness rather than getting caught up in thoughts, the longer and more frequent these gaps become, until eventually you learn to live primarily from this space of conscious presence rather than from the reactive patterns of the thinking mind. You begin to see that this is what all spiritual practice is ultimately pointing toward, not the elimination of thoughts and emotions, but the recognition of your true nature as the awareness in which thoughts and emotions arise and pass away. This awareness is not personal. It doesn't belong to you any more than the sky belongs to the clouds that pass through it. It is the universal consciousness, the divine presence, the Buddha nature that is the essence of all beings. When you recognize this awareness as your true identity, you naturally feel connected to all of life. You realize that the same consciousness that looks out through your eyes also looks out through the eyes of every other being. The same awareness that witnesses your thoughts also witnesses the thoughts of every person you meet. At the deepest level, there is only one consciousness, one awareness, one presence expressing itself through billions of apparently separate forms. This understanding brings with it a natural compassion for all beings. When you see that everyone is struggling with the same fundamental confusion, the belief that they are their thoughts, the identification with the small self rather than the vast self. You can no longer judge others harshly. You see that their anger, their fear, their selfishness all arise from this basic misunderstanding about their true nature. And you feel moved to help them discover what you are discovering, that peace is possible, that freedom is available, that their essential nature is already perfect and whole. The forest is thinning out now, and you can see the open meadow clearly ahead. The moonlight streams down through the fewer and fewer branches, illuminating the water with silver light. You feel a sense of completion, of having learned something precious and transformative during your passage through the forest of thoughts. You know that you will never again be quite so lost in your mental activity, quite so identified with the voice in your head. You have learned to find the pause between thoughts, the space between breaths, the stillness between heartbeats. You have discovered the refuge of awareness that is always available. No matter how stormy the weather of your mind might become, you have remembered your true nature as the witness, the observer, the conscious presence that is the ground of all experience. As the last trees of the forest pass by on either side of you, you offer them a silent thank you for their teaching, for their example of how to remain rooted and centered, while allowing all of life to flow through and around you. You carry their wisdom with you as the river bears you toward the moonlit meadow, toward the next stage of this sacred journey of awakening. The open sky stretches above you now, vast and star-filled and infinite. You are no longer enclosed by the canopy of the forest, but floating under the boundless expanse of the night sky. And you realize that this is a perfect metaphor for what has just happened within you. You have moved from the enclosed, limited perspective of identification with thoughts to the open, unlimited perspective of pure awareness. You are ready now for whatever teachings await you in the meadow of the heart, ready to continue this journey of discovery, ready to learn even more about the infinite depths of your true nature. The transition from forest to meadow happens gradually, like dawn breaking slowly across the landscape of your consciousness. The trees become more sparse, the canopy more open, until finally you are floating in completely open water under the vast dome of the star-filled sky. The change is breathtaking, from the intimate, enclosed feeling of the forest to the expansive, limitless feeling of open space. You notice how this external transition perfectly mirrors the internal shift that has taken place within you. You have moved from the enclosed, sometimes claustrophobic experience of being trapped in your thoughts to the open, spacious experience of resting in pure awareness. The relief is profound, like stepping out of a small, crowded room into a vast cathedral, or like emerging from a tunnel into brilliant sunlight. As you float in this transition space between forest and meadow, you take a moment to integrate the profound teaching you have received. You understand now that the key to peace is not in controlling your thoughts, but in changing your relationship with them. You don't need to have a quiet mind to be peaceful. You need to recognize the quiet awareness that is always present beneath the activity of the mind. This awareness is like the deep ocean beneath the waves on the surface. No matter how turbulent the surface might become, the depths remain calm and still. In the same way, no matter how active your thinking mind might be, the awareness in which thoughts arise and pass away remains peaceful and undisturbed. This is your refuge, your sanctuary, your true home. You realize that you can access this refuge at any moment, in any circumstance. Whether you are sitting in meditation or stuck in traffic, whether you are having a difficult conversation or lying in bed unable to sleep, you can always return to this space of aware presence. It requires no special conditions, no particular posture, no specific location. It is as close to you as your own breath, as intimate as your own heartbeat. The practice is simple. When you notice that you have been caught up in thoughts, you simply return your attention to the awareness that is noticing the thoughts. When you find yourself lost in a mental story, you gently come back to the present moment, to the space of conscious presence that is always here and now. When you realize you have been identified with the voice in your head, you remember that you are the listener, not the voice. As these understandings settle into your heart like seeds planted in fertile soil, you feel the river beginning to carry you into the open meadow that lies ahead. The water here is crystal clear, reflecting the moonlight like liquid silver. The meadow stretches out on both sides of the river, covered in tall grass that waves gently in the night breeze, like the surface of a peaceful sea. You are ready now for the next stage of this sacred journey, ready to discover what wisdom awaits you in this new landscape of the soul. You carry with you the precious gift of understanding that the forest has given you, the knowledge that you are not your thoughts, that peace is always available in the space of pure awareness, that your true nature is vast and free and unchanging. The meadow welcomes you with its open arms, and you sense that here you will learn about the heart, about love, about the profound interconnectedness of all life. The river knows where it is taking you, and you trust the river completely, knowing that each moment of this journey is a blessing, each teaching a gift, each step an opportunity to awaken more fully to the truth of who you really are. As the river carries you fully into the heart of the moonlit meadow, you are overwhelmed by the sheer beauty that surrounds you. The meadow stretches as far as you can see in every direction, a vast expanse of silver-touched grass that ripples and flows like a gentle sea in the soft night breeze. Wildflowers dot the landscape like scattered stars, white daisies and purple lupines, yellow buttercups and delicate pink roses, their petals glowing softly in the ethereal light. The air here is different from the forest, lighter, sweeter, filled with the perfume of 1,000 blossoms and the fresh, clean scent of grass and earth. You breathe deeply, and with each breath you feel something opening within your chest, a warmth spreading through your heart, like the first rays of sunrise breaking over the horizon. This is the meadow of the heart, the landscape of love, the sacred ground where gratitude grows wild and free. As you float peacefully in the gentle current, you become aware of a profound shift taking place within you. Where once there was the busy chatter of thoughts in the forest, and before that, the struggle to control the river, now there is something entirely different, a deep, abiding sense of appreciation for this moment, for this journey, for the simple miracle of being alive and aware in this beautiful world. This feeling of gratitude seems to arise spontaneously, like flowers blooming in spring. You haven't done anything to create it or earn it. It is simply here, as natural and effortless as breathing. You feel grateful for the water that supports you, for the moonlight that illuminates your path, for the gentle breeze that caresses your skin. You feel grateful for the lessons you have learned, for the peace you have found, for the journey that has brought you to this sacred place. And as this gratitude fills your heart, you begin to understand the third great truth that the river has brought you here to discover. Gratitude is the key to happiness. Not the fleeting happiness that comes from getting what you want or avoiding what you don't want, but the deep, lasting happiness that comes from appreciating what is already here, what has always been here, what will always be here, the fundamental goodness of existence itself. You realize that for so much of your life, you have been focused on what was missing, what was wrong, what needed to be fixed or changed or improved. You have lived with a sense of scarcity, always looking for the next thing that would finally make you happy, always believing that contentment was just around the corner, always postponing your joy until some future moment when everything would be perfect. But the meadow teaches you a different way of seeing, a different way of being. Here, surrounded by this abundance of natural beauty, you begin to see that you have always been surrounded by abundance. You have always been living in a miracle. You have always been held and supported and loved by the universe itself. You simply forgot to notice. You were so busy looking for what was missing that you missed what was present. The Buddha taught that suffering comes not from what we lack, but from our inability to appreciate what we have. We suffer not because life is inherently painful, but because we are constantly comparing our present reality to some imagined future or idealized past. We suffer because we have trained our minds to focus on problems rather than blessings, on what's broken rather than what's beautiful, on what we need rather than what we've been given. But gratitude is the antidote to this suffering. Gratitude is the practice of training your attention to notice the gifts that are always present, the miracles that are always happening, the love that is always flowing. It is the art of seeing with the eyes of appreciation rather than the eyes of judgment, of experiencing life as a gift rather than a burden, of recognizing abundance rather than scarcity. As you float deeper into the meadow, you begin to practice this art of grateful seeing. You notice the incredible complexity and beauty of a single flower floating past you on the water, the delicate architecture of its petals, the subtle gradations of color, the perfect symmetry of its design. You marvel at the fact that this flower grew from a tiny seed, drawing nutrients from the earth and energy from the sun, following an ancient blueprint encoded in its DNA to create this moment of perfect beauty. You become aware of your own body floating in the water, the miracle of your heart beating steadily without any conscious effort on your part, the wonder of your lungs breathing automatically, the incredible complexity of your nervous system processing thousands of sensations every second. You think about the trillions of cells that make up your body, each one a universe unto itself, all working together in perfect harmony to create the experience of being you. You feel gratitude for your senses, for your eyes that can see the beauty of this moonlit meadow, for your ears that can hear the gentle sound of water and wind, for your skin that can feel the caress of the night air, for your nose that can smell the sweetness of flowers, for your tongue that can taste the freshness of the water. Each sense is a doorway to wonder, a gift that allows you to participate in the beauty and richness of the world. You think about all the people who have touched your life, who have loved you and supported you and helped you become who you are. Your parents who gave you life, your teachers who shared their knowledge, your friends who offered their companionship, even the strangers who showed you kindness in small but meaningful ways. You realize that you are not a self-made person. but a community-made person, shaped and supported by countless acts of love and generosity. You feel grateful for the challenges you have faced, the difficulties that have strengthened you, the losses that have taught you to appreciate what remains. You see now that even your struggles have been gifts in disguise, opportunities for growth and learning and deepening. Without the darkness, you could not appreciate the light. Without the storms, you could not value the calm. Without the pain, you could not recognize the healing. As this wave of gratitude washes over you, you notice something remarkable happening. The more grateful you feel, the more beautiful everything becomes. It's as if gratitude is a lens that brings the world into sharper focus, revealing layers of beauty and meaning that were always there but somehow invisible to your ungrateful eyes. The flowers seem more vibrant, the water more crystalline, the moonlight more luminous. The entire meadow seems to be glowing with an inner light, as if your appreciation is awakening the soul of the landscape itself. You begin to understand that this is how gratitude works. It doesn't just change how you feel about the world, it actually changes how you see the world. When you look through the eyes of appreciation, you see abundance everywhere. When you listen with ears of gratitude, you hear music in the wind and poetry in the water. When you touch life with hands of thankfulness, you feel the sacred in the ordinary, the divine in the mundane. The Buddha taught that the mind is like a garden, and whatever you water will grow. If you water the seeds of complaint and criticism, you will harvest a crop of bitterness and dissatisfaction. If you water the seeds of gratitude and appreciation, you will harvest a crop of joy and contentment. The choice is always yours. In every moment, you can choose what to focus on, what to pay attention to, what to cultivate in the garden of your consciousness. You remember reading about scientific studies that show how gratitude literally rewires the brain, creating new neural pathways that make it easier to notice and appreciate positive experiences. People who practice gratitude regularly report higher levels of happiness, better relationships, improved health, and greater resilience in the face of challenges. Gratitude is not just a nice sentiment, it is a powerful practice that can transform your entire experience of being alive. As you float through the meadow, you begin to experiment with this practice of grateful attention. You look at the grass swaying in the breeze and feel thankful for the way it dances, for the life force that animates it, for its simple beauty. You watch the clouds drifting across the moon and feel grateful for their ever-changing shapes, for the way they filter the light, for the reminder they offer that everything in life is temporary and therefore precious. You listen to the gentle sound of the water carrying you forward and feel thankful for its persistence, for its ability to find a way around every obstacle, for the way it nourishes all life. You feel the soft night air on your skin and appreciate its gentleness, its freshness, the way it connects you to the breath of the earth itself. Every sensation becomes a doorway to gratitude, every moment an opportunity to say thank you to life. You begin to see that gratitude is not just about appreciating the obviously beautiful or pleasant things in life. True gratitude goes deeper than that. It is the ability to find something to appreciate in every experience, to see the gift hidden within every challenge, to recognize the love that underlies even difficult circumstances. It is the practice of saying yes to life as it is, not just as you wish it were. You think about times in your life when you were so focused on what was wrong that you completely missed what was right, times when you complained about the weather while standing in a garden full of flowers, times when you worried about money while surrounded by friends who loved you, times when you stressed about work while living in a body that was healthy and strong. You see now how much beauty and goodness you missed because you were looking in the wrong direction. But there is no judgment in this recognition, only compassion. You understand that this is simply how the human mind works. It is designed to notice problems and threats as a survival mechanism. In the ancient world, the people who survived were the ones who could quickly spot danger, who were always scanning for what might go wrong. This negativity bias served our ancestors well, but in the modern world, it often creates unnecessary suffering. The practice of gratitude is a way of retraining this ancient survival mechanism, teaching your mind to notice not just what might be dangerous or lacking, but also what is beautiful and abundant and worthy of appreciation. It is a way of balancing the natural tendency toward worry and complaint with an intentional focus on blessing and beauty. As you continue to float through the meadow, you notice that the landscape is becoming even more spectacular. The flowers are growing larger and more abundant, their colors more vivid and varied. You see roses the size of dinner plates, their petals soft as silk and fragrant as perfume. You see sunflowers tall as trees, their faces turned toward the moon as if in worship. You see fields of lavender stretching to the horizon, their purple spikes creating a carpet of color and scent. You realize that this increasing beauty is not just in the external landscape, but in your internal landscape as well. As your gratitude deepens, your capacity to perceive beauty expands. You are learning to see with the eyes of love, to experience the world as a constant gift, to recognize the sacred that is hidden in plain sight everywhere you look. This is what the mystics and sages have always taught, that the world is exactly as beautiful and meaningful and sacred as you are able to perceive it to be. When your heart is closed by ingratitude and complaint, the world appears dull and disappointing. But when your heart is opened by appreciation and wonder, the world reveals itself as the paradise it has always been. You begin to understand that gratitude is not just a feeling but a way of being, not just an emotion but a spiritual practice, not just a nice addition to life but the very foundation of a life well lived. When you live from gratitude, everything changes. Your relationships become deeper because you appreciate the people in your life rather than taking them for granted. Your work becomes more fulfilling because you focus on the opportunities it provides rather than the burdens it creates. Your challenges become teachers because you look for the lessons they offer rather than just the problems they present. The river continues to carry you through this paradise of appreciation, and you notice that up ahead, the meadow is beginning to change again. The flowers are becoming even more extraordinary, and there seems to be a golden light emanating from somewhere beyond the next bend in the river. You sense that you are approaching another threshold, another teaching, another opportunity to deepen your understanding of the nature of life and love and consciousness. But for now, you are content to float in this meadow of gratitude, practicing this art of appreciative awareness, learning to see the world through the eyes of thankfulness. You understand now that gratitude is not something you do when life is going well. It is something you practice, especially when life is challenging, because it is in those moments that you most need to remember the goodness that is always present, the love that is always flowing, the beauty that is always available to those who have eyes to see. As the golden light grows brighter ahead, you offer a prayer of thanksgiving for this teaching, for this meadow, for this journey of awakening. You know that you will never again take for granted the simple miracle of being alive in this beautiful world. You have learned to find the extraordinary in the ordinary, the sacred in the mundane, the infinite in the finite, and you carry this gift of grateful seeing with you as the river bears you toward whatever wonder awaits you around the next bend. As you float deeper into this meadow of endless beauty, you begin to understand that gratitude is not just about appreciating the obviously wonderful things in life. True gratitude, you realize, is the ability to find something sacred and meaningful in every single experience, even those that initially appear difficult or unwelcome. This is the advanced practice of grateful living, learning to see the hidden gifts in every moment, the secret blessings disguised as challenges, the love that flows even through experiences of loss and pain. You remember times in your life when what seemed like the worst thing that could happen turned out to be exactly what you needed for your growth and evolution. The job you lost that led you to discover your true calling. The relationship that ended that taught you how to love yourself. The illness that slowed you down enough to appreciate the simple gift of health. The failure that humbled you and opened your heart to compassion for others who struggle. These experiences were not pleasant when you were going through them. They brought fear, sadness, confusion, and pain. But looking back now with the wisdom of time and perspective, you can see how each one was perfectly designed to teach you something essential, to break you open to greater love, to strip away what was false so that what was true could emerge. Even your deepest wounds have become sources of wisdom and compassion. The Buddha taught that suffering is one of our greatest teachers, not because suffering itself is good, but because it has the power to wake us up from the sleep of unconsciousness. When life is easy and comfortable, it's natural to take things for granted, to sleepwalk through our days without really noticing the miracle of existence. But when we face challenges, when we encounter loss or disappointment or pain, we are forced to pay attention, to question our assumptions, to look more deeply at what really matters. This doesn't mean you should seek out suffering or be grateful for pain itself. It means you can be grateful for the strength that suffering has taught you, for the compassion it has opened in your heart, for the wisdom it has brought to your life. You can appreciate how your struggles have made you more understanding of others who struggle, more aware of the preciousness of joy when it comes, more committed to living authentically rather than just going through the motions. As you practice this deeper level of gratitude, floating peacefully through the meadow, you begin to see that every experience in your life, both pleasant and unpleasant, has been a teacher, a guide, a stepping stone on your journey toward greater awareness and love. Nothing has been wasted, nothing has been meaningless. Even your mistakes and failures have served a purpose, helping you learn what doesn't work so you could discover what does. You think about the people who have challenged you, who have pushed your buttons, who have brought out your worst qualities. At the time, you may have seen them as enemies or obstacles, but now you can see that they too were teachers, showing you where you still had work to do, where you still carried unhealed wounds, where you still needed to grow in patience and understanding. They were mirrors, reflecting back to you the parts of yourself that needed attention and healing. This perspective doesn't excuse harmful behavior or mean you should tolerate abuse. It simply means you can find something to learn from every interaction, something to be grateful for even in difficult relationships. Perhaps someone's criticism helped you develop thicker skin. Perhaps someone's rejection led you to discover your own worth. Perhaps someone's betrayal taught you to trust your own intuition. Even painful experiences can become sources of strength and wisdom when viewed through the lens of grateful awareness. The meadow around you seems to be responding to this deepening of your gratitude practice. The flowers are becoming more luminous, as if lit from within by their own inner light. The grass beneath the water glows with a soft green radiance. The very air seems to shimmer with golden particles of joy and appreciation. You realize that this is what happens when you truly open your heart in gratitude. The world reveals its hidden beauty, its secret magic, its underlying divinity. You begin to understand what the mystics mean when they speak of seeing God in everything, of recognizing the sacred in the ordinary. When your heart is open in appreciation, when your eyes are clear with grateful seeing, you perceive the divine presence that animates all of life. You see that every flower is a prayer, every tree is a temple, every breath is a blessing, every moment is a miracle. This is not just poetic language or wishful thinking. This is direct perception, immediate experience, the natural result of living from a place of deep appreciation. When you are truly grateful, you see clearly. When you are genuinely appreciative, you perceive accurately. When you are authentically thankful, you recognize the truth that has always been present, but was hidden by the veils of complaint and criticism, and taking things for granted. You remember reading about indigenous cultures that begin each day with prayers of gratitude, acknowledging the gifts of the earth, the sun, the water, the air. They thank the plants and animals that give their lives to sustain human life. They appreciate the ancestors who came before and the children who will come after. They recognize their place in the great web of existence, understanding that they are not separate from nature but part of it, not above other creatures, but interconnected with all of life. This indigenous wisdom reminds you that gratitude is not just a personal practice, but a way of relating to the entire cosmos. When you live from gratitude, you naturally become more respectful of the environment, more considerate of other beings, more aware of your impact on the world around you. You begin to see yourself not as a consumer of resources, but as a participant in the great dance of giving and receiving that sustains all life. You think about the incredible chain of events that had to occur for you to be here in this moment, the stars that had to explode billions of years ago to create the elements that make up your body, the countless generations of ancestors who had to survive and reproduce for your genetic line to continue, the precise conditions on Earth that allow life to flourish, the intricate web of relationships between plants and animals and microorganisms that maintains the delicate balance of the ecosystem. When you really contemplate the astronomical odds against your existence, you realize that your very presence here is the most unlikely and precious miracle imaginable. You are not just a random accident in an indifferent universe. You are a conscious expression of the universe itself, a way for the cosmos to know itself, to experience itself, to appreciate its own beauty and wonder. Your capacity for gratitude is the universe being grateful for itself through you. This understanding fills you with a profound sense of responsibility and purpose. If your existence is such an incredible gift, how can you best honor that gift? How can you live in a way that is worthy of the miracle you have been given? The answer that arises from your heart is simple. by appreciating it fully, by loving it completely, by sharing its beauty with others, by being a force for healing and blessing in the world. As these realizations settle into your consciousness, like seeds taking root in fertile soil, you notice that the golden light ahead is growing brighter and more beautiful. The river is carrying you toward what appears to be the most magnificent garden you have ever seen, a place where flowers of every color imaginable bloom in impossible profusion, where trees heavy with fruit bend their branches toward the water, where butterflies dance in the air like living jewels. But even more than the external beauty, you are aware of the internal transformation that is taking place within you. Your heart feels expanded, opened, capable of holding infinite appreciation for the gift of existence. Your eyes feel clearer, able to perceive beauty and meaning in everything they encounter. Your entire being feels lighter, as if the weight of complaint and criticism has been lifted from your shoulders, replaced by the wings of wonder and appreciation. You understand now that gratitude is not just a nice feeling or a positive attitude. It is a way of perceiving reality accurately, of seeing what is actually true rather than what your conditioned mind tells you is true. When you are grateful, you see abundance rather than scarcity, connection rather than separation, love rather than fear. You perceive the world as it actually is, a place of incredible beauty and meaning and sacred purpose. The practice of gratitude becomes a form of prayer, a way of communing with the divine presence that flows through all things. Each moment of appreciation is an act of worship, a recognition of the sacred, an acknowledgement of the love that creates and sustains all existence. You begin to see that every breath is an opportunity to say thank you, every heartbeat a chance to express appreciation, every moment a gift to be received with wonder and joy. As you approach the magnificent garden ahead, you feel a deep sense of completion and fulfillment. You have learned the secret of happiness, not in getting what you want, but in wanting what you have. Not in changing your circumstances, but in changing your perception of your circumstances. Not in acquiring more, but in appreciating what is already present. This is the wisdom of the meadow, the teaching of the heart, the gift of grateful living. The golden light grows ever brighter as you float toward this new landscape of wonder. You can see that the garden ahead is unlike anything in the ordinary world, a place where the very air seems to sparkle with joy, where every flower appears to be singing with silent music, where the trees themselves seem to be dancing in celebration of existence. You are approaching the realm of pure beauty, the dimension of absolute love, the space where all gratitude leads. You carry with you the precious gift that the meadow has given you, the ability to see with eyes of appreciation, to live with a heart of thanksgiving, to recognize the sacred that is hidden in every moment of ordinary life. You know that you will never again take for granted the simple miracle of being alive in this beautiful world. You have learned to find heaven not in some distant future, but in the present moment, not in perfect circumstances, but in perfect appreciation of whatever circumstances arise. The river continues to carry you forward, and you trust its wisdom completely, knowing that it is taking you exactly where you need to go, teaching you exactly what you need to learn, revealing exactly what you are ready to see. The journey continues, and with each moment your heart opens wider, your vision becomes clearer, your capacity for love and appreciation grows deeper and more profound. As you float in this space between the meadow and the approaching garden, you take a moment to fully absorb the profound teaching you have received. You understand now that gratitude is not just a practice you do occasionally when you remember, but a way of life, a lens through which you can choose to see every experience, every person, every moment. It is the master key that unlocks the door to contentment, the secret ingredient that transforms ordinary life into extraordinary blessing. You realize that you can practice gratitude in the smallest moments, when you wake up in the morning and feel thankful for another day of life, when you take your first sip of water and appreciate its refreshing coolness, when you see sunlight streaming through a window and marvel at the way it illuminates everything it touches. These micro moments of appreciation, practiced consistently throughout the day, have the power to completely transform your experience of being alive. You think about how you will carry this practice back into your daily life, how you will remember to pause and appreciate the food you eat, recognizing the sun and rain and soil and countless hands that brought it to your table, how you will look into the eyes of the people you love and feel grateful for their presence in your life, for the way they enrich your days with their laughter and conversation and care, how you will notice the beauty that surrounds you everywhere, in architecture and art, in faces and flowers, in music and movement, and the play of light and shadow. You see that gratitude is contagious. When you appreciate others, they feel valued and are more likely to appreciate others in turn. When you express thankfulness for the service you receive, you brighten someone's day and inspire them to serve with greater joy. When you acknowledge the gifts you have been given, you create a ripple effect of appreciation that spreads far beyond what you can see or imagine. The Buddha taught that what we focus on grows stronger in our lives. If you focus on problems, you will see more problems. If you focus on blessings, you will see more blessings. This is not because the external world changes, but because your perception changes, and your perception shapes your reality more than you might realize. Gratitude is a way of training your attention to notice what is working, what is beautiful, what is worthy of appreciation in your life. As these insights integrate into your understanding, you feel the river beginning to carry you into the magnificent garden that awaits ahead. The transition is gradual, but unmistakable. The flowers along the banks become more exotic and beautiful. The air becomes more fragrant and golden. The water itself seems to sparkle with an inner light that reflects the joy and appreciation you have cultivated in your heart. You know that you are ready now for whatever teaching awaits you in this new landscape. You have learned to let go of the need to control, to recognize that you are not your thoughts, and to live from a place of deep gratitude and appreciation. Each lesson has prepared you for the next. Each understanding has opened the door to deeper wisdom. Each moment of this journey has been perfectly orchestrated to help you remember who you truly are and why you are here. The meadow of gratitude has given you its greatest gift, the ability to see the sacred in the ordinary, to find the extraordinary in the everyday, to recognize that you are already living in paradise if you have eyes to see it. This is the foundation of all spiritual wisdom, the ground of all genuine happiness, the source of all lasting peace. When you live from gratitude, you live from love. When you see with appreciative eyes, you see with the eyes of God. As the garden of wonders opens before you, bathed in golden light and filled with beauty beyond description. You offer one final prayer of thanksgiving for this meadow, for this teaching, for this moment of perfect understanding. You know that your life will never be the same, that you have been forever changed by this encounter with the transformative power of grateful living. And you carry this precious gift with you as the river bears you forward into the next phase of your sacred journey of awakening. As the river carries you into the heart of this magnificent garden, you are overwhelmed by beauty beyond anything you have ever imagined. This is not just a garden, it is paradise itself, a realm where every flower is perfect, every tree is heavy with the sweetest fruit, every butterfly carries colors that seem to have been painted by angels. The air itself shimmers with golden light, and you can hear what sounds like celestial music emanating from the very flowers and trees themselves. But as breathtaking as this external beauty is, you become aware that something even more profound is happening within you. As you float deeper into this sacred space, the boundaries between yourself and the garden begin to dissolve. You feel as though you are not just observing this beauty, but becoming part of it, merging with it, recognizing yourself in every petal and leaf and ray of light. The river widens here, becoming broader and deeper, and you realize that you are approaching something vast and limitless ahead. Through the trees, you can see glimpses of what appears to be an infinite ocean, its surface reflecting the golden light of this paradise. Like liquid gold, the sound of gentle waves reaches your ears, and with it comes a profound sense of homecoming, as if you are approaching the source from which all rivers flow, the ocean from which all life emerges. As you float toward this cosmic ocean, you begin to understand that you are approaching the fourth great truth that this journey has been designed to teach you, the recognition of your fundamental interconnectedness with all of life. This is not just an intellectual concept or a beautiful metaphor, but a direct experience of the unity that underlies the apparent diversity of existence. You are about to remember what you have always known but somehow forgotten, that you are not separate from the world around you, but intimately connected to everything and everyone. The Buddha taught that the belief in separation is the root of all suffering. When you see yourself as isolated, alone, cut off from the rest of life, you naturally feel fear, loneliness, and the need to protect yourself against a hostile world. You compete rather than collaborate, hoard rather than share, judge rather than understand. You live in a constant state of subtle anxiety because you feel fundamentally disconnected from the source of love and support. But this sense of separation is an illusion, a trick of perception created by the thinking mind. In reality, you are no more separate from the rest of existence than a wave is separate from the ocean. You are a unique expression of the one life that flows through all things, an individual note in the cosmic symphony, a single cell in the infinite body of consciousness that is the universe itself. As the river carries you closer to the ocean, you begin to feel this truth in your very bones. The water that supports you is the same water that nourishes the flowers in the garden, that flows through the trees, that falls as rain and rises as mist. The air you breathe has been breathed by countless beings before you and will be breathed by countless beings after you. The atoms that make up your body were forged in the hearts of ancient stars and will continue to exist long after your individual form has dissolved back into the elements. You are not a separate thing in the universe. You are the universe expressing itself as a temporary pattern called by your name. You are not looking at nature from the outside. You are nature looking at itself through your eyes. You are not isolated from the cosmic dance. You are the cosmic dance, spinning and swirling and celebrating its own existence through your unique perspective and experience. This understanding begins as a gentle recognition, like the first light of dawn on the horizon. But as you float closer to the ocean, it grows stronger and clearer until it becomes a blazing certainty that illuminates your entire being. You feel the walls of separation dissolving, the barriers between self and other melting away like ice in the warm Sunday. You begin to experience what the mystics call unity consciousness, ESP, the direct perception of the oneness that underlies all apparent multiplicity. The garden around you seems to be celebrating this recognition. The flowers appear more luminous, as if they are acknowledging your awakening to the truth of interconnection. The trees seem to be reaching toward you with their branches, welcoming you home to the family of all life. The butterflies dance around you in spirals of joy, and you feel as though they are not separate beings but extensions of your own consciousness, expressions of your own delight in existence. You remember moments in your life when you touched this truth, even if you didn't fully understand it at the time. Moments when you felt completely at one with nature while walking in a forest or sitting by the ocean. Times when you were so absorbed in a beautiful piece of music that you forgot where you ended and the music began. Experiences of deep love when the boundaries between yourself and another person seem to disappear entirely. Instances of profound compassion when you felt the pain of another as if it were your own. These were not just emotional experiences or flights of imagination. They were glimpses of reality, moments when the veil of separation lifted and you perceived the world as it actually is. One seamless whole, one unified field of consciousness, one love expressing itself through infinite forms and faces and experiences. The Buddha called this recognition interdependence, the understanding that nothing exists independently, that everything arises in relationship to everything else, that the entire universe is a web of interconnected relationships rather than a collection of separate objects. Your body depends on the sun for energy, on plants for oxygen, on countless microorganisms for digestion and immunity. Your mind depends on language learned from others, on ideas shared by teachers and friends, on the accumulated wisdom of human culture. Your heart depends on love given and received, on the web of relationships that give your life meaning and purpose. When you truly understand interdependence, you realize that taking care of others is taking care of yourself, because there is no real separation between self and other. Healing the earth is healing your own body, because you are part of the earth. Bringing peace to the world is bringing peace to your own heart, because you are not separate from the world. This is not altruism or sacrifice. It is enlightened self-interest, the recognition that your well-being and the well-being of all life are intimately connected. As these realizations flow through your consciousness like a river of light, you notice that you have reached the edge of the garden. The river is opening into the vast ocean that stretches to the horizon and beyond. The water here is crystal clear, so transparent that you can see all the way to the bottom, where colorful coral gardens and schools of luminous fish create an underwater paradise. The surface of the ocean is perfectly calm, reflecting the sky so perfectly that it's impossible to tell where the water ends and the heavens begin. As you float into this cosmic ocean, you feel yourself dissolving into something infinitely larger than your individual identity. You are still you, but you are also more than you. You are the ocean itself, vast and deep and eternal. You feel the presence of every drop of water, every grain of sand, every creature that swims in these sacred depths. You are no longer a separate being, having an experience of the ocean. You are the ocean, experiencing itself through the form you call yourself. This is what the ancient sages meant when they spoke of enlightenment, of awakening, of remembering your true nature. It is not becoming something you are not, but recognizing what you have always been. It is not achieving some special state, but seeing clearly the state you are always in. It is not transcending the world, but recognizing yourself as the consciousness in which the world appears. In this state of oceanic awareness, you understand that every person you have ever met is another wave in the same ocean, another expression of the same consciousness that you are. The people you have loved and the people you have struggled with, the strangers you have passed on the street and the friends who have shared your journey, all are faces of the one self, masks worn by the one actor, notes played by the one musician. This understanding brings with it a profound compassion that has no object, because it recognizes no separation. When you see that the homeless person on the street is yourself in another form, you naturally want to help. When you recognize that your enemy is yourself wearing a different mask, you naturally want to understand and forgive. When you realize that every being is struggling with the same fundamental confusion about their true nature, you naturally want to serve and support and love. The Buddha taught that this compassion is not an emotion, but a natural expression of wisdom. When you see clearly, you love spontaneously. When you understand the truth of interconnection, you serve automatically. When you recognize the one consciousness looking out through every pair of eyes, you treat all beings with the same care you would give to yourself. As you float in this ocean of unity consciousness, you begin to understand why you have taken this journey, why you have learned these lessons, why you have been guided to this recognition. It is not for your own liberation alone, but so that you can become a vehicle for the liberation of all beings. It is not to escape from the world, but to return to the world with the gift of awakened awareness. It is not to transcend your humanity, but to embody your divinity through your humanity. You see now that every awakened being throughout history has made this same journey, from the illusion of separation to the recognition of unity, from the prison of the ego to the freedom of the true self, from the suffering of disconnection to the joy of remembering their place in the cosmic family, and each one has returned to serve, to teach, to help others find their way home to this same recognition. This is your calling too, you realize, not to remain in this blissful state of oceanic consciousness, but to learn how to carry this awareness back into daily life, how to live from this understanding of unity while still functioning in a world that appears to be divided. This is the great work of the awakened soul, to be a bridge between heaven and earth, a translator between the language of separation and the language of unity, a living demonstration that it is possible to remember your true nature while still playing your role in the human drama. The ocean around you pulses with waves of love and light, and you feel yourself being prepared for this sacred work. You are being filled with the wisdom and compassion you will need to serve, being given the strength and clarity you will need to remain awake in a world that often seems asleep, being blessed with the joy and peace you will need to be a source of healing and hope for others. You understand now that this is what Jesus meant when he said, "I and the Father are one," what the Buddha meant when he spoke of the true self, what every mystic and sage has tried to communicate through their teachings and their lives. They were not claiming to be special or different from others. They were pointing to the truth that is equally present in every being, the divine nature that is the birthright of every soul, the oceanic consciousness that is the ground of all existence. As you float in this infinite ocean of love and awareness, you feel a deep gratitude for this journey, for these teachings, for this recognition of your true nature. You know that you will never again feel truly alone or separate, because you have remembered that you are always held in the embrace of the one life, always supported by the love that is the essence of existence, always connected to the source from which all blessings flow. The ocean stretches endlessly in all directions, and you realize that this is not just a place you have come to visit, but your true home, the realm from which you have never actually departed. You are not a human being having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. You are not a drop of water that has fallen into the ocean. You are the ocean that has chosen to experience itself as a drop. This understanding fills you with a peace that surpasses all understanding, a joy that needs no reason, a love that has no limits. You are ready now for the final stage of this journey, ready to learn how to carry this oceanic awareness back into the world of form, ready to discover how to serve the awakening of all beings while remaining anchored in the truth of your own divine nature. The ocean continues to hold you in its infinite embrace, and you trust completely in its wisdom, knowing that it will teach you everything you need to know, give you everything you need to serve, prepare you perfectly for whatever role you are meant to play in the great awakening that is happening on this planet. You are home, and from this home, you will learn to serve. As you float in this infinite ocean of consciousness, you begin to explore the depths of this recognition more fully. You realize that this understanding of unity is not just a philosophical concept or a mystical experience, but the most practical and transformative truth you could ever discover. When you truly know that you are connected to everything and everyone, it changes how you live, how you love, how you make decisions, how you treat others and yourself. You think about all the times in your life when you acted from a sense of separation, when you competed instead of collaborated, when you hoarded instead of shared, when you judged instead of understood. You see now that these actions arose from a fundamental misperception, a belief that your well-being was separate from the well-being of others, that you could be happy while others suffered, that you could harm the world without harming yourself. But from this oceanic perspective, you see the absurdity of such thinking. It would be like your right hand trying to harm your left hand, or your heart trying to compete with your lungs. When you recognize that all beings are part of the same body of consciousness, the same ocean of awareness, the same divine presence expressing itself through countless forms, then serving others becomes as natural as breathing. Loving becomes as automatic as your heartbeat. The Buddha taught that this recognition of interconnectedness naturally gives rise to what he called bodhicitta, the awakened heart that is committed to the liberation of all beings. This is not a moral obligation imposed from outside, but a spontaneous expression of wisdom. When you see clearly, you love completely. When you understand deeply, you serve joyfully. When you remember your true nature, you naturally want to help others remember theirs. As you float deeper into this ocean of unity, you begin to feel the presence of all beings everywhere, not just the humans on this planet, but all forms of life throughout the cosmos. You sense the consciousness that looks out through the eyes of every animal, that grows through every plant, that shines through every star. You feel the awareness that experiences itself as a dolphin playing in the waves, as an eagle soaring through the sky, as a tree reaching toward the sun, as a child laughing with pure joy. This expanded awareness brings with it a profound sense of responsibility. If you are truly connected to all life, then your thoughts, words, and actions ripple out through the web of existence, affecting everything and everyone in ways you may never fully understand. Every moment of anger or fear you hold contributes to the suffering of the world. Every moment of love or peace you embody contributes to the healing of the world. You begin to understand what the ancient teachings mean when they speak of karma, not as a system of reward and punishment, but as the natural law of interconnection. In a universe where everything is connected, every action has consequences that extend far beyond what you can see. When you harm another, you harm yourself. When you heal another, you heal yourself. When you awaken to your true nature, you contribute to the awakening of all beings. This understanding brings with it both humility and empowerment. Humility, because you realize that you are not the separate, independent agent you thought you were, but part of something infinitely larger than your individual self. Empowerment, because you realize that your life matters in ways you never imagined, that your awakening contributes to the evolution of consciousness itself, that you have the power to be a force for healing and transformation in the world. You remember reading about the 100th monkey effect, the idea that when a critical mass of individuals learns a new behavior or understanding, it somehow spreads to the entire population instantaneously. Whether or not this phenomenon is scientifically accurate, it points to a deeper truth about the interconnected nature of consciousness. When you awaken to your true nature, you make it easier for others to awaken. When you embody love and peace, you strengthen the field of love and peace that surrounds the planet. The ocean around you seems to pulse with this understanding, waves of recognition flowing through your consciousness like gentle currents of light. You feel yourself connected not just to all beings in the present moment, but to all beings throughout time, to the ancestors who came before, and the descendants who will come after, and to the saints and sages who have walked this path of awakening, to the countless souls who are even now discovering their true nature in their own unique ways. You realize that you are part of an ancient lineage of awakening, a golden chain of consciousness that stretches back to the beginning of time and forward into eternity. Every being who has ever awakened to the truth of unity has contributed to this chain, has made it easier for others to follow, has left a trail of light for those who come after. And now you too are part of this sacred lineage, carrying the flame of awakened awareness that has been passed down through countless generations. This recognition fills you with a profound sense of purpose and meaning. You are not just living for yourself, but for all beings. You are not just healing your own wounds, but contributing to the healing of the collective wound of separation that has caused so much suffering throughout history. You are not just finding your own peace, but adding to the peace of the world. You are not just discovering your own true nature, but helping to reveal the true nature of existence itself. As you float in this ocean of infinite love and awareness, you begin to understand the deeper meaning of service. True service is not about sacrificing yourself for others, because there are no others. There is only the one self, expressing itself through countless forms. True service is about recognizing yourself in everyone you meet and treating them with the same love and care you would give to yourself. It is about seeing through the illusion of separation and responding from the truth of unity. This kind of service flows naturally from awakened awareness. It doesn't require effort or struggle or self-sacrifice. It is as natural as water flowing downhill, as effortless as the sun shining, as automatic as your heart beating. When you know who you really are, serving others becomes serving yourself. When you understand what you really are, loving others becomes loving yourself. When you remember where you really come from, helping others becomes helping yourself. The Buddha taught that there are different levels of service, corresponding to different levels of understanding. At the first level, you serve others because it makes you feel good, or because you believe it is the right thing to do. This is beautiful and beneficial, but it still maintains the illusion of separation between the server and the served. At the second level, you serve others because you recognize your interconnectedness with them, because you understand that their well-being and your well-being are intimately connected. This is deeper and more sustainable than the first level. But at the deepest level, you serve because you realize there is no other to serve. There is only the one consciousness serving itself, the one love expressing itself, the one being caring for itself through countless forms. This is the service of the awakened heart, the compassion of the enlightened mind, the love of the realized soul. It flows effortlessly because it arises from truth rather than from concept, from being rather than from doing, from what you are rather than from what you think you should be. As these understandings integrate into your consciousness like streams flowing into the ocean, you feel yourself being prepared for the return journey. You know that you cannot remain in this blissful state of oceanic awareness forever, at least not in the way you are experiencing it now. You must learn how to carry this recognition back into the world of form, how to live from this understanding while still functioning in daily life, how to be a bridge between the realm of unity and the realm of apparent separation. This is perhaps the greatest challenge and the greatest opportunity of the spiritual path, not to escape from the world, but to transform your relationship with the world, not to transcend your humanity, but to embody your divinity through your humanity, not to reject the realm of form, but to recognize the formless essence that gives rise to all forms, not to abandon your individual identity, but to discover the universal identity that includes and transcends all individual identities. The ocean begins to stir around you, gentle currents indicating that it is time to begin the return journey. But this is not a return to where you started. It is a return to the world with new eyes, new understanding, new capacity to love and serve and heal. You are the same person who began this journey, but you are also completely transformed. You have remembered who you really are, and that changes everything. You feel the ocean gathering you up in its infinite embrace, preparing to carry you back toward the shore of ordinary consciousness, but with the extraordinary gift of awakened awareness. You know that you will face challenges as you integrate this understanding into daily life, that the world will sometimes seem to pull you back, into the illusion of separation. But you also know that you can never completely forget what you have discovered here, can never entirely lose the recognition of your true nature. The waves of the ocean begin to carry you gently back toward the garden, back toward the meadow, back toward the forest and the river that brought you here. But you are not the same being who traveled this path before. You carry within you now the living recognition of unity, the direct experience of interconnectedness, the embodied understanding that you are not separate from the love that creates and sustains all existence. As you prepare for this return journey, you offer a prayer of gratitude to the ocean, to this sacred space of recognition, to the consciousness that has revealed itself to you as your own deepest nature. You know that you are not leaving this ocean behind. You are carrying it with you, embodying it, becoming a living expression of its infinite love and wisdom in the world of form. The journey continues, but now it is not a journey toward awakening. It is a journey of awakening, a path of service, a life dedicated to helping others remember what you have remembered, discover what you have discovered, return to what you have returned to. You are ready now for the final teaching, the ultimate gift, the completion of this sacred circle of understanding. As the ocean prepares to release you back into the flow of the river, you take one final moment to absorb the profound truth you have discovered here. You understand now that this recognition of unity is not something you achieve or attain, but something you remember and embody. It is not a state you reach and then maintain, but a reality you recognize and then express through your thoughts, words, and actions. You see that the spiritual journey is not about becoming someone different, but about becoming more authentically yourself, your true self, your essential self, the self that has always been one with the source of all existence. This is what the great teachers meant when they said, "Know thyself," not know your personality or your history or your preferences, but know your deepest nature, your original face, your connection to the infinite mystery that is the ground of all being. The waves of the ocean begin to carry you gently back toward the mouth of the river, and you feel yourself transitioning from this state of pure oceanic consciousness back into the more familiar experience of individual awareness. But the transition is not a loss, it is an integration. You are not leaving your true nature behind, but learning how to express it through the vehicle of your human form, your unique personality, your individual life circumstances. This is the great art of awakened living, maintaining the recognition of unity while functioning in the world of apparent diversity, remembering your connection to the whole while playing your part in the cosmic drama, staying rooted in the truth of oneness while engaging fully with the beautiful complexity of existence. It requires practice, patience, and compassion for yourself as you learn to navigate between these different levels of reality. You realize that every person you meet from now on will be an opportunity to practice this recognition, to see through the surface differences, to the underlying unity, to respond from love rather than fear, from wisdom rather than reactivity. Every challenging situation will be a chance to remember who you really are, to choose peace over conflict, to embody the truth you have discovered rather than just thinking about it. The Buddha taught that awakening is not a one-time event but an ongoing process, not a destination you reach but a way of traveling, not a state you achieve but a quality of presence you cultivate moment by moment. Each day offers countless opportunities to remember and embody your true nature, to live from the recognition of unity, to be a force for healing and love in the world. As the river current takes hold of you once again, carrying you back through the garden of paradise toward the meadow of gratitude, you feel the ocean's blessing flowing through you like liquid light. You carry within you now the living memory of what you have experienced, the embodied knowledge of who you really are, the practical wisdom of how to serve the awakening of all beings. You know that this journey is not ending but beginning, not concluding but commencing, not finishing but flowering into a life of conscious service and awakened love. You are returning to the world as an agent of transformation, a messenger of unity, a living reminder that separation is an illusion and love is the only reality. The ocean releases you with infinite tenderness back into the flow of the river, and you carry its essence with you as you prepare for the final stage of this sacred journey, the return to ordinary consciousness, transformed by extraordinary understanding, the integration of transcendent wisdom into immanent service, the embodiment of divine love through human form. As the river carries you back through the garden of paradise, you notice that everything appears different now, transformed by the recognition you have gained in the ocean of oneness. The flowers seem more luminous, not just beautiful in themselves, but radiant with the consciousness you now know they share with you. The trees appear more majestic, not just as separate beings, but as expressions of the same life force that flows through your own being. The butterflies dance with a joy you can feel in your own heart, because you recognize that their joy and your joy spring from the same source. This is the gift of awakened perception, not that the world changes, but that you see the world as it has always been. The unity was always there, the interconnection was always present, the love was always flowing. You simply had eyes that could not see, ears that could not hear, a heart that could not feel the truth that was hiding in plain sight. Now the veils have been lifted, the clouds have parted, the sun of awareness shines clearly on the landscape of existence. As you float through the garden, you begin to understand the fifth and final great truth that this journey has been designed to teach you. You are here to serve. Not because you owe something to the universe, not because you need to earn your place in the cosmic order, but because service is the natural expression of awakened consciousness. When you know who you really are, serving others becomes as natural as breathing. When you recognize your unity with all life, helping others becomes helping yourself. The Buddha taught that there are two wings to the bird of awakening: wisdom and compassion. Wisdom is the recognition of your true nature, the understanding of the unity that underlies all apparent diversity. Compassion is the expression of that wisdom in action, the embodiment of love in service to all beings. Without wisdom, compassion can become sentimental or codependent. Without compassion, wisdom can become cold or detached, but together they create the perfect balance of awakened living. You have gained the wing of wisdom through this journey, the recognition that you are not separate from the source of love, that you are not isolated from the web of existence, that you are not cut off from the ocean of consciousness that is your true nature. Now you must learn to develop the wing of compassion, to translate this understanding into loving action, to become a vehicle for the healing and awakening of all beings. This service takes many forms, and each person is called to serve in their own unique way. Some are called to teach, sharing the wisdom they have gained through words and concepts that can help others understand. Some are called to heal, using their gifts to alleviate suffering and restore wholeness. Some are called to create, bringing beauty and inspiration into the world through art and music and poetry. Some are called to lead, guiding communities and organizations toward greater harmony and justice. But regardless of the specific form your service takes, it all springs from the same source: the recognition that you are not separate from those you serve, that their well-being and your well-being are intimately connected, that helping them awaken to their true nature is the most meaningful thing you can do with your life. This is not sacrifice or duty, it is joy and fulfillment, the natural flowering of your own awakened heart. As the river carries you back through the meadow of gratitude, you feel the truth of this calling settling into your bones. You see now that your entire life has been preparing you for this moment, this recognition, this commitment to serve. Every experience you have had, both pleasant and painful, has been teaching you something you needed to learn, developing qualities you needed to develop, preparing you for the work you are meant to do in the world. Your struggles have taught you compassion for others who struggle. Your losses have taught you to appreciate what remains. Your mistakes have taught you humility and the importance of forgiveness. Your successes have taught you confidence and the power of perseverance. Your relationships have taught you about love and connection and the art of seeing the divine in human form. Every thread in the tapestry of your life has been woven together to create the unique pattern of wisdom and compassion that is your gift to the world. You begin to understand that there are no accidents in the spiritual journey, no random events or meaningless coincidences. Everything that has happened to you has happened for you, to help you grow and learn and awaken to your true purpose. Even the experiences that seemed most difficult or painful at the time were perfectly designed to break you open to greater love, to strip away what was false so that what was true could emerge. This doesn't mean that suffering is good or that you should seek out painful experiences. It means that you can find meaning and purpose in every experience, that you can extract wisdom from every challenge, that you can transform even the most difficult circumstances into opportunities for growth and service. This is the alchemy of the awakened heart, the ability to turn lead into gold, to transform suffering into compassion, to convert personal pain into universal healing. As you float through the meadow, surrounded by the flowers of gratitude and appreciation, you feel a deep sense of completion and beginning simultaneously. You have completed the journey of awakening to your true nature, but you are just beginning the journey of expressing that nature through service to others. You have finished the work of remembering who you are, but you are just starting the work of helping others remember who they are. The river carries you back into the forest of thoughts, but now you move through this landscape with complete equanimity. The thoughts that arise in your mind no longer have the power to disturb your peace or shake your confidence in your true nature. You can observe them with gentle amusement, like watching clouds pass through the sky or leaves floating on the water. You are no longer identified with the voice in your head, no longer lost in the stories your mind tells you about yourself and the world. This freedom from mental reactivity is one of the greatest gifts of awakening. When you are no longer at the mercy of your thoughts and emotions, you can respond to life from a place of wisdom and love rather than reacting from old patterns of conditioning. You can choose your words more carefully, act more skillfully, love more freely. You become a source of peace and stability for others who are still caught in the storm of mental activity. As you emerge from the forest and return to the open river where your journey began, you notice that the water here looks different now. It is the same river, flowing in the same direction, carrying the same current, but your perception of it has been transformed. Where once you saw only water moving toward an unknown destination, you now see the sacred flow of existence itself, the divine current that carries all beings toward their ultimate awakening. You understand now that this river is a metaphor for life itself, sometimes turbulent, sometimes calm, always moving, always changing, always carrying you exactly where you need to go. You can trust this flow completely, knowing that it arises from the same source of wisdom and love that you have discovered within yourself. You can surrender to its current without fear, knowing that it will never lead you astray, never take you anywhere that is not perfect for your growth and service. This trust in the flow of life is perhaps the most practical result of your awakening. When you know that you are not separate from the intelligence that governs the universe, you can relax into the unfolding of your life with confidence and peace. You don't need to control every outcome or manipulate every circumstance. You can do your best, offer your gifts, serve with love, and trust that the results will be exactly what is needed for the highest good of all. This doesn't mean becoming passive or fatalistic. It means becoming aligned with the deeper currents of existence, learning to work with the flow rather than against it, discovering how to be both fully engaged and completely surrendered. It is the art of effortless effort, of passionate non-attachment, of loving without grasping, of serving without ego. As you float in the river where your journey began, you feel the presence of all the beings who are still struggling with the illusion of separation, still caught in the web of fear and desire, still searching for the peace and love and meaning that you have discovered within yourself. Your heart opens to them with infinite compassion, and you feel called to share what you have learned, to offer what you have received, to be a light in the darkness for those who are still finding their way. This is the bodhisattva vow that arises naturally from awakened consciousness, the commitment to work for the liberation of all beings, to dedicate your life to service, to use whatever gifts and abilities you have been given to help others discover their own true nature. It is not a burden or obligation, but a joy and privilege, the most fulfilling way to spend the precious gift of human life. You begin to envision how you will carry this understanding back into your daily life, how you will treat your family members and friends with greater patience and love, seeing them as fellow travelers on the spiritual journey rather than as sources of frustration or disappointment, how you will approach your work with greater purpose and meaning, seeing it as an opportunity to serve rather than just a way to earn money, how you will meet strangers with greater openness and kindness, recognizing them as expressions of the same consciousness that you are. You see that every interaction will be an opportunity to practice presence, to embody love, to offer the gift of your awakened awareness. Every conversation will be a chance to listen deeply, to speak truthfully, to respond from wisdom rather than reactivity. Every challenge will be an invitation to remain centered in your true nature, to choose peace over conflict, to be a source of healing rather than adding to the suffering of the world. This is the path of the householder sage, the awakened being who lives fully in the world while remaining rooted in transcendent truth. It is not an easy path, but it is the most rewarding one. The path that allows you to be fully human and fully divine simultaneously. It requires constant vigilance, continuous practice, and endless compassion for yourself as you learn to integrate these profound realizations into the messy, complicated, beautiful reality of human existence. The Buddha taught that awakening is not a permanent state that you achieve once and then maintain effortlessly. It is a quality of presence that you must cultivate moment by moment, choice by choice, breath by breath. Some days, you will remember clearly who you are and serve from that recognition with joy and ease. Other days, you will forget and get caught up in old patterns of fear and separation. This is natural and human and nothing to judge yourself for. The key is to be gentle with yourself, to treat your own spiritual journey with the same compassion you would offer to a beloved friend. When you notice that you have forgotten your true nature, you simply remember. When you catch yourself acting from ego rather than love, you simply return to love. When you realize you have been lost in thoughts or emotions, you simply come back to presence. This is the practice of awakening. IF, not perfection, but continuous return to truth. As you prepare to complete this sacred journey and return to ordinary consciousness, you feel a profound gratitude for everything you have experienced and learned. You are grateful for the river that carried you, for the forest that taught you, for the meadow that opened your heart, for the ocean that revealed your true nature. You are grateful for the challenges that strengthened you, for the beauty that inspired you, for the love that sustained you throughout this transformative passage. Most of all, you are grateful for the recognition that you are not separate from the source of all blessings, that you are not cut off from the love that creates and sustains all existence, that you are not alone in this vast universe, but intimately connected to everything and everyone. This recognition is the greatest gift you could ever receive, and now it is yours to share with all beings who are ready to receive it. The river begins to slow as you approach the place where this journey began, but you know that in truth, this journey never ends. You will continue to deepen your understanding, to expand your capacity for love and service, to grow in wisdom and compassion for the rest of your life. You have not reached a destination but discovered a way of traveling, not achieved a goal but remembered your purpose, not completed a task but begun your real work in the world. As the current gently brings you to rest at the starting point of your journey, you offer one final prayer of gratitude and dedication. You commit yourself to living from the truth you have discovered, to serving from the love you have remembered, to being a force for healing and awakening in whatever way is most needed. You know that this is not the end of your story, but the beginning of a new chapter, not the conclusion of your spiritual journey, but the commencement of your sacred service to all life. And so you rest here in the gentle current of the eternal river, held in the infinite love that is your true nature, supported by the wisdom that is your birthright, surrounded by the peace that is your natural state. You are home, you are whole, you are ready to serve. The journey continues, and you continue with it, carrying the light of awakened consciousness into a world that desperately needs the gift of your realized love. Before we close this sacred journey together, I want to remind you to like this video if it brought you peace, to subscribe to our channel for more guided meditations and sleep stories, and to leave a comment below, sharing where in the world you're listening from and what time it is where you are. Your presence in our global community of seekers is a blessing, and knowing that souls all around the world are awakening together brings me great joy. May you sleep deeply and peacefully, held in the love that never leaves you, supported by the wisdom that is always available, surrounded by the presence that is your true home. May you wake tomorrow with the memory of who you really are, alive in your heart, ready to serve, ready to love, ready to be the light that this world needs. Sweet dreams, beautiful soul, until we meet again in the space of awakened awareness, rest well in the ocean of infinite love. As you rest in this sacred space between the journey and the return, between the awakening and the integration, you take time to fully absorb the profound transformation that has taken place within you. You are the same person who began this journey, yet you are completely different. Your external circumstances may not have changed, but your internal landscape has been revolutionized. You see with new eyes, hear with new ears, feel with a heart that has been cracked open to its infinite capacity for love. This transformation is not something you have achieved through effort or struggle, but something you have remembered through grace. You have not become someone new, but have returned to who you have always been beneath the layers of conditioning and confusion. You have not gained something foreign to your nature, but have reclaimed your birthright as a conscious being, as an expression of the divine intelligence that creates and sustains all existence. The ancient sages taught that this recognition is the purpose of human life, not to accumulate wealth or fame or power, but to awaken to your true nature and then express that nature through loving service to all beings. This is what gives life ultimate meaning and purpose, what transforms ordinary existence into sacred mission, what turns the simple act of being alive into a celebration of consciousness itself. You understand now that every person you encounter is on this same journey, whether they know it or not. Some are just beginning to question the reality of separation, just starting to sense that there might be something more to existence than what appears on the surface. Others are deep in the process of awakening, struggling with old patterns and beliefs that no longer serve them. Still others have already recognized their true nature and are learning how to embody that recognition in their daily lives. Each person is at exactly the right place in their journey, learning exactly what they need to learn, experiencing exactly what they need to experience, to grow and evolve and awaken. Your role is not to judge where they are or try to push them forward faster than they are ready to go, but simply to be present with them, to love them unconditionally, to offer whatever support and encouragement they are open to receiving. Sometimes your service will be obvious and direct, teaching, healing, counseling, guiding others through their own awakening process. But more often, your service will be subtle and indirect, simply being a presence of peace in a chaotic world, offering a smile to a stranger, listening deeply to a friend in need, choosing love over fear in the countless small decisions that make up daily life. The Buddha taught that the most powerful way to serve is through the quality of your presence rather than through what you do or say. When you are truly present, centered in your true nature, free from the agitation of mental reactivity, open to the flow of love and wisdom, you become a blessing to everyone around you. Your very being becomes a reminder to others of their own potential for peace and awakening. This is why the inner work you have done on this journey is so important. By healing your own wounds, by releasing your own fears, by awakening to your own true nature, you become capable of serving others from a place of wholeness rather than neediness, from overflow rather than emptiness, from love rather than ego. You can give what you have received, share what you have discovered, offer what you have been given. As you continue to rest in the gentle current of the river, you feel the presence of all the awakened beings throughout history who have walked this same path of realization and service. You sense their support and encouragement, their blessing and guidance. You realize that you are now part of this ancient lineage of consciousness, this golden chain of awakening that stretches back through time and forward into eternity. You think of the Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree, awakening to the truth of interdependence, and then spending the rest of his life teaching others how to find the same freedom from suffering. You think of Jesus, recognizing his unity with the Father, and then dedicating his life to demonstrating the power of divine love. You think of countless other sages and saints and mystics who have made this same journey from separation to unity, from fear to love, from ignorance to wisdom. Each of them face the same choice you now face, whether to remain in the bliss of transcendent realization or return to the world of form to serve the awakening of others. And each of them chose service, chose love, chose to be a bridge between heaven and earth, a translator between the language of unity and the language of separation. They chose to be bodhisattvas, awakened beings who dedicate their lives to the liberation of all sentient beings. This is the choice that naturally arises from genuine awakening. When you truly understand that you are not separate from others, serving them becomes serving yourself. When you recognize that their suffering is your suffering, alleviating it becomes a natural priority. When you see that their awakening contributes to the awakening of the whole, supporting it becomes the most meaningful way to spend your time and energy. But this service must be offered without attachment to results, without need for recognition or reward, without expectation that others will respond in any particular way. True service is an expression of love, not a strategy for getting something in return. It flows from fullness, not from emptiness. It gives freely, without keeping score or expecting reciprocation. This kind of selfless service is only possible when you have touched the source of fulfillment within yourself, when you have tasted the nectar of your own true nature, when you have drunk from the well of infinite love that is always available in the depths of your being. When you are truly full, you naturally overflow. When you are genuinely happy, you naturally want others to be happy too. When you are authentically free, you naturally work for the freedom of all beings. As these understandings settle into your consciousness like sediments settling to the bottom of a clear pool, you begin to feel the call to return to ordinary awareness, to integrate these realizations into your daily life, to begin the sacred work of embodying awakened consciousness in human form. This transition requires patience and gentleness with yourself, as you learn to navigate between different levels of reality, different states of consciousness, different ways of being in the world. You will find that some days it is easy to remember who you really are, to stay centered in your true nature, to respond from love rather than fear. Other days will be more challenging, as old patterns of thinking and feeling reassert themselves, as the world seems to pull you back into the drama of separation and conflict. This is natural and normal, and nothing to be discouraged about. The key is to be patient with the process, to treat yourself with the same compassion you would offer to a beloved friend who is learning something new and difficult. Awakening is not a destination you reach once and then maintain effortlessly. It is a quality of presence you cultivate moment by moment, a choice you make again and again, a practice you engage with for the rest of your life. Each time you remember your true nature, you strengthen the neural pathways of awakened awareness. Each time you choose love over fear, you make it easier to choose love the next time. Each time you respond from wisdom rather than reactivity, you build the capacity to respond wisely in future situations. This is how awakening becomes embodied, through repetition, through practice, through the patient cultivation of new ways of being. You will also find that your awakening affects everyone around you, even when you don't say anything directly about your spiritual insights or experiences. Your family members may notice that you are more patient and loving. Your friends may sense that you are more present and authentic. Your co-workers may observe that you are more calm and centered. Your very presence becomes a gift to others, a reminder of their own potential for peace and happiness. This is one of the most beautiful aspects of the spiritual journey. As you heal and awaken, you contribute to the healing and awakening of the collective. As you find peace within yourself, you add to the peace of the world. As you embody love in your daily interactions, you strengthen the field of love that surrounds the planet. You become part of the solution to the world's problems simply by solving the fundamental problem within yourself, the illusion of separation from your source. The river continues to hold you in its gentle embrace as you prepare for this transition back to ordinary consciousness. But you know now that there is nothing ordinary about consciousness. Peace, it is the most extraordinary thing in existence, the miracle that makes all other miracles possible, the light that illuminates all experience, the love that creates and sustains all life. You carry this recognition with you as you begin to feel yourself returning to the familiar landscape of everyday awareness. You are not losing what you have gained, but learning how to express it through the vehicle of your human personality, your unique gifts and talents, your particular circumstances and relationships. You are becoming a living bridge between the transcendent and the immanent, the absolute and the relative, the eternal and the temporal. This is the great work of conscious evolution, not to escape from the world, but to transform your relationship with the world, not to transcend your humanity, but to embody your divinity through your humanity, not to reject the realm of form, but to recognize the formless essence that gives rise to all forms. This is how heaven comes to earth, through awakened beings who remember their true nature and then express that nature through loving service to all life. As you rest here in the eternal now, suspended between the journey and the return, between the awakening and the embodiment, you offer one final prayer of gratitude and dedication. You thank the river for carrying you, the teachers for guiding you, the experiences for transforming you. You dedicate whatever merit you have gained from this journey to the awakening and happiness of all beings everywhere. You commit yourself to being a force for healing and love in whatever way is most needed and most authentic to your unique gifts and calling. And now, as the gentle current of ordinary consciousness begins to carry you back to the familiar shores of daily life, you rest in the profound peace of knowing who you really are, why you are here, and how you can best serve the great awakening that is happening on this planet. You are ready to return, ready to serve, ready to love. The journey continues, and you continue with it, carrying the light of realized consciousness into a world that is hungry for the truth you have remembered.